Background, but those are all your headlines for now. Chaos reigned in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature on Monday when the Economic Freedom Fighters members stormed the legislature. EFF members were led by their Commander-in-Chief Julius Malema. The EFF was protesting against the expulsion of the legislature's members earlier this month for wearing red overalls and domestic workers' attire. Police had to resort to using violence to get them out of the legislature. Now, to talk to us about this, we are now joined by the acting speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Uhuru Moiloa. Mr. Moiloa, good morning and welcome to AM News.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me.
First and foremost, tell us, what does the law say about the dress code for parliamentarians in the sphere of government?
Section 116 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa Act of 1996 provides for legislatures to develop their own processes, rules on how they do their business. On the basis of this section of the Constitution, how the legislature from its inception in 1994 developed the rules. In this case, we have rule number 31 of Gauteng Standing Rules that provides for decorum of the House. And it's on the basis of that the Honorable Speaker Mekwe ruled that certain members of the legislature were not appropriately dressed in the chamber.
But what does it say when it comes to decorum? What does the rule actually say? That you must wear a suit and tie?
There is a case law in the ruling of the Speaker in the past where a member of the legislature came to the chamber not wearing a tie, and the Speaker ruled that the member was not appropriately dressed. Now, clearly, if you're wearing a shirt that suits a tie, you have to wear a shirt that suits a tie. If you're wearing a traditional shirt, you must wear a traditional shirt. If you're wearing a religious, dress or something of that nature, it must be in such a way that it complies with the expectation of the Constitution that recognizes cultural diversity, that recognizes religion, and so on and so forth. That is basically the issue that is being debated in the legislature at the present moment.
Now, some would argue that the EFF was sworn in with their overalls in the national parliament, so why not accept it in Gauteng?
As I say, Section 116 provides for legislatures to develop their own processes and rules. In this case, Gauteng legislature has got its own rules. There are other 8 provincial legislatures with their own rules, different rules. National Parliament has got its own rules. The Gauteng legislature is not subject, in terms of the Constitution, to the National Parliament, because we have a system of cooperative governance where each sphere is respected by the Constitution in its own original powers. So we've got our own rules in the legislature. They are not ambiguous. It's very clear as to what is it that is appropriate, what is it that is not appropriate. In the past, the Speaker also ruled for a female member of the legislature who was wearing a short-sleeved dress. And the Speaker ruled that the member was not wearing appropriately. Now, the rules provide for once the Speaker has made a ruling, that ruling is final until the next rules committee, where a member who may be aggrieved by the ruling of the Speaker may have an opportunity to make a presentation to the rules committee with regard to the decision that the Speaker has made. Otherwise, if the Speaker of Parliament, of the legislature, can be questioned, her rulings can be questioned by a member of the legislature in the House in session, it's anarchy, because it's endless. So it means that there's no authority with regard to decision-making in the House. So the wisdom of the drafters of the rules in 1994, when it took over power, was exactly in contemplation of this kind of a situation where the ruling of the Speaker must be final in the House.
Now, what kind of action will now be taken against the EFF? They've been expelled out of the legislature, or what? The
members of the EFF have taken an oath of office in terms of the Constitution. They've said before God and before the judge of the Constitutional Court that they'll abide by the rule of law, that they uphold the principles of the Constitution. Now, I've just mentioned Section 116 of the Constitution that binds the EFF to respect the processes that has been established by the legislature. And one of those is that if the Speaker has made a ruling with regard to any other matter, that ruling is final until, in this case, the EFF can make a presentation to the Rules Committee of which they are participating to say that we are not satisfied, can we revisit this matter? And those matters will be subject to a democratic process. Unfortunately, in democracy, there is a ruling party and an opposition. Now, if in the Rules Committee, the reasons advanced by the EFF or any other political party for that matter on the decorum of the House does not satisfy the views of the majority, a vote will take place in a democracy, and those that take decisions are those that basically have majority in a committee. And that's how democracy works, unfortunately. You cannot have the cake and eat it.
So they were expelled and then they stormed the legislature.
A very unfortunate, quite outraged. We felt very outraged by the behavior of people that have taken an oath of public office to lead the masses into the legislature and storm the legislature, the manner in which it is done. I think they've disgraced themselves. They've undermined the decorum of our institution, and they've actually undermined the decorum of constitutionalism in South Africa. I think that was anarchy at its worst, and it must be condemned because, as we say, South Africa does not have space for lawlessness. We are a country governed by the rule of law, based on the Constitution of the Republic, and all of us have contributed to this beautiful Constitution that is hailed by the world as the best among the best.
Was there a way to prevent this anarchy in the beginning?
Of course. You know, when the EFF noticed the Speaker that they will be marching to the legislature to protest against the ruling of the Speaker, which was itself out of order. Because a party that is represented in Parliament has got an opportunity, a platform to, engage issues. They don't have to march in the street or things like that. You cannot become a governor and become a protest. You protest against yourself. Because they're part of the legislature. They're part of the legislature, taken an oath. So they must come to the melting pot of ideas in the legislature and contest decision-making there. And this is what democracy is about. Now, they stormed the legislature. That was not an agreement with the law enforcement agencies in terms of Public Gatherings Act. The agreement was that they were going to end at the legislature's piazza. We will receive a memorandum there. And I went out at 12 o'clock. I was presiding over the House. I was taken out to go and receive the memorandum, and Mr. Malema was not forthcoming with the memorandum for 6 hours.
Now, where are the members of the EFF now? Are they allowed back in or not until what happens next? Members of the EFF are members of the legislature. As I said, they've taken an oath of office. What is remaining of them is to come to the legislature, dressed appropriately in terms of the ruling of the Speaker. And if they've got issues that they want to challenge, there's a rules committee that they are participating in. They should table their grievances there. And that matter will be discussed at the rules committee. And the rules committee will make a decision whether it amends the decorum, as it is stated now in Section 31 of our rules, or not. And by the way, we should as well be careful here, because the EFF is driving us into a situation that is unsustainable. I'm asking a question. I mean, if you want to wear the way you want to wear, where is it going to stop? I mean, if you challenge the decorum as ruled by the legislature and the Speaker of the House, where will this thing end? I've asked the question. If somebody says, I want to wear my pajamas in a lawmaking institution, such as the legislature or Parliament, will you allow that person to come to the legislature wearing pajamas? So it's endless. There has to be a stop to this, because it basically sits for anarchy, lawlessness, and the undermining of the rule of law. So there's rules, and you need to abide by the rules, especially if you signed according to the rules and regulations of the legislature. Well, if you have stood for the elections in terms of our electoral act, and you have made yourself available to serve the people of South Africa, and the people of South Africa have given you a mandate to be a member of Parliament, there are rules. There's a constitution, there is a law, there are rules. You must participate within the system. Uhuru, thank you so much for coming through to AM News. Thank you very much. That was the acting Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Uhuru Moiloa, talking to us about what happened at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature on Monday and what needs to happen next.